John in PA, the father of a military son, he's got his view on the government saying that the military is the #1 terror threat in the new al-Qaeda. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Alex. This is great. First off, I wanted to tell you that my son is IA in Iraq right now. He runs the Phalanx gun. He shoots down incoming. But what I wanted to tell you about was a conversation he had with his chief petty officer on the way to the gym. He overheard two guys talking about the Promise Keepers. And the next thing you know, there's 5 or 6 sailors on that ship all talking about how they were supported the Promise Keepers or they were a member of the Promise Keepers. And he didn't even try to solicit that. He was just on his way to the gym and he heard these guys and he started talking to them. That half of that ship is completely awake. You know, they want to support the Constitution. Hello?
Absolutely. Now, they're the Promise Keepers, you know, that promise to be good Christian men, and that's great, and not be worldly, but there's also the Oath Keepers. Was it Promise Keepers or Oath Keepers?
Oath Keepers, Alex. I'm sorry. I got the wrong one. Oath Keepers. The guys who swear to abide and protect and defend the Constitution. You know, that's one thing in the Navy they still have in their oath. When I went to his out of boot camp out in above Chicago, up in Great Lakes, all those fine young men all took an oath to defend the Constitution. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that all these young men, like, we're about 3 or 4 hours drive out of Norfolk, so when they had all the classes, they used to drag up 5 and 6 guys at a time. We'd open up our house to them. All of them had these great positive attitudes. My son's awake, and I show a lot of the guys come up here in game and Freedom of Fascism, all these movies. And you know what the half of them said? Let it happen. We're going to fight and we're going to win. They can't wait for the globalists to make their move. They can't wait. These guys are positive, and they're people that, like you said, they're people that do things. They're active. You know, they didn't sign up to protect our country just to sit around and draw a check. And that's what some of the globalists, they're depending on. These guys that turn on us, they're greatly mistaken.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate your call, and say hi to your son and tell him we appreciate his service to the Republic. You know, if you look at the general enlisted oath, they do swear to the Constitution and the President. But if you look at the officers, it's to the Constitution. And that's why officers are commissioned by Congress. Because our founders didn't trust the President to be in command of the military. Purely. The Congress directs the President who the enemy is. He then prosecutes as the commander-in-chief. But the officers and the separation of power, Congress has commissioned them. I was just watching Fox Business during the break out there on the television. And it showed every arrow of every stock in the 3-minute break aiming straight down, red, with the stock market now down over 400 points, except for 2, gold and silver. Gold and silver were aiming up, then it was showing gold and silver stocks. Most of those were up as well. Not because they're really up, but because the dollar is being devalued, ladies and gentlemen. And it's that simple. We've got Max Kaiser joining us coming up here in the next segment to break down what's happening in the markets, and I got a bunch of other news we're going to be covering. But right now, let us take another call to Raul in Florida. He's a former Marine, and he's got, I guess, a comment on the fact that Big Sis is running national TV ads. In ad after ad, the terrorists are all white. And the president and the vice president say it's the Tea Party. They're getting ready to attack us. Gee, when the Tea Party supposedly attacks folks, is this a little obvious this is a setup? I mean, how dumb do they think we are? Your comment, Raul.
Hey, Alex, how you doing? Yeah, I'm an ex-Marine. A few quick comments. Anybody that's in the service should watch the movie Beyond Treason. I don't know if you've seen it. But
absolutely. Dave Von Kleiss and Joyce Riley, excellent about the DU and how they didn't take care of the troops.
I sent you an email. I don't know who got it. I don't want to discuss it on air, but the ticket number is 266130. And if you read it, what I said on that email happens, I'll be calling you in the future. That's all I can say. I had someone or something that told me about 9/11 and the tsunami in Japan. And if this happens, what I said on that email, well, I'll have to contact you in the future then.
Well, let me stop you. What's your Infowars.com email ticket number again?
266130.
266130?
That's right.
Okay, we'll pull that up right now. What do you think of the rebranding over now to basically saying anybody who doesn't like global government, you're terrorists now?
Well, I think that the closer they get, obviously the people are going to be waking up faster and faster, and it drives them to make or take desperate measures, you know. So things are going to become more irrational. Things that they say now are just going to become more irrational. And people just need to open up their eyes and see how things change so quickly that maybe a year ago nobody would even mention that on TV, and now they're saying things that are just don't make sense, you know. So
well, it's simple, exactly. They're the terrorist. They know we're on to them, and they're going to now say we're the terrorist, and they're also going to then pose as us as well. They're going to hit us from every angle and come out and talk bad about the New World Order and talk bad about the Federal Reserve like Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry are doing right now. But their history shows they've always served it. They're so desperate because of Ron Paul, they're trying to become him. Let's go. I'm going to bring that up to Max Kaiser, too, not just on the economy. I'm going to get his take on the awakening that's happening. Thank you so much, sir. Let's talk to a retired police officer, Jake in Chicago. Then we'll get to Barack, Justin, Joe, and others. Go ahead, Jake. You're on the air.
Alex, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. I used to be a police officer with the sheriff's office in Chicago. And I can tell you, and I left there several years back. I'm now a doctor of metaphysics, which is a complete different deal. But the interesting thing is, when I was doing police work, we handled people in a completely different fashion, and we were always told to be mindful of the way that we dealt with minority people so that it could never be construed that we were doing anything that would be considered prejudicial. And to see this swing completely, like, blows my mind. And I started taking notice. Wherever I go, I notice that almost every police department in the Chicago suburbs and whatnot, they're dressing like military now. They don't dress like cops because you used to have at inspection a pressed uniform so that you put on a nice image so that when you went out into the public...
Yeah, the old-fashioned peace officer. Instead, they look like Mexican paramilitary police.
Exactly. And when I started seeing that, I'm like, everybody's wearing combat boots. Nobody wears a tie anymore. They wear the little, like, Dickie type thing underneath the shirt, like on Hill Street Blues. And I'm like, this is going military, and there's battering rams on the cars. And I'm like, we never had battering rams on the car. If we had to kick in a door, we did it the old way. We kicked in a door. So it's become a completely different world, and something that I saw this morning literally scared the hell out of me.
Stay there. I'm going to have you finish up. We're getting Max Kaiser on the line, but I want you to be able to finish up, and then he can comment on what you say. Max Kaiser, who's really, with great precision, broken down so much of what's coming in the economy. He'll be with us coming up to track the implosion in the stock market, the rise of gold. Stay with us. Now, finishing up with the caller and then to Max Kaiser. Jake, you were bringing up things that you're really concerned about, the militarization of police, the goonishness of all of it. And you said you saw something on the news that really concerned you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get a call this morning. Somebody says, Dr. Jake, I sent you a link. Check it out. And I go on there and I see this thing where Obama is telling, I believe the guy's name is Assad, telling him to step aside. And I thought, who in the hell is he to tell somebody else to step aside? And that just blew my mind, that the gall of the way things are going, the way these people are acting towards other world leaders, telling them to get out of the way. Could you imagine if somebody from China told us, hey, stop doing this or that? We'd say, mind your own business, forget about it, and we'd go about our lives, right?
Yes.
And I see that the government is rapidly becoming more militarized in its function. as opposed to being more administrative, it is becoming more of a military operation. And like I had said earlier, when I see these local police departments with battering rams, guys in combat boots, think about if a woman called and said, I hear strange noises behind my house, could you please send a car? They send guys over there that look like military guys that would scare the hell out of children. And that's
it's all part of conditioning the public. They've had police chiefs admit that the black uniforms, the mask, it's meant to scare the public. They don't want police and the public being friends anymore. They want police to be revenue generators and enforcers, just like they are in Mexico. I mean, I remember going to Mexico 25 years ago, and the cops were dressed there like they're dressed here now. Same thing in North Korea. It's all about intimidation. God bless you, my friend. Look, we are going into a total depression designed by the mega banks to institute a financial dictatorship. And in the case of Assad, it is admitted that NATO, the United States, and Israel have been shipping arms across the border to radical Muslim groups, because he's got a secular government, to overthrow them. Just like they just helped overthrow Mubarak, the old dictator, and are putting in the Muslim Brotherhood. Only so they can have another war with the Shiites and others in a couple of years. The globalists are that cold-blooded. And I'm not saying Assad's a good guy, but yes, that's why they put Obama in and gave him a peace prize. Well, so people say, well, he's the man of peace. This is not a war in Libya. It is peace. You know, I was reading, I keep saying 4 months. The AP was reporting there's been a war in Libya now for 6 months. Remember Obama? War in Libya to last, in fact, guys, pull this up. Obama, headline, conflict to last days. Or Obama, NATO involvement to last days, not weeks. That involvement's 4.5 months. Been going on for a couple months before that. 6 months. They're blowing up their power plants, their water production. They're laying siege. They're killing civilians everywhere. Because he has been building up Africa and trying to create their own banking system. That is not, the Serbs tried to do that. Not allowed. Who'd they use to take out the Serbs? Al-Qaeda, Muslim extremist. Who'd they use to attack the Russians? Al-Qaeda. Who do they use to attack us so they can then take our rights away? Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.